All right, well, hello. Thank you so much for coming back for another lesson in SEDA College Online's intermediate lesson series. I'm very excited for you to be here with me today, and thank you so much for everyone coming back each day to see my lessons. It's very nice to see, to see the same people every day, to say hello to you, um, because it helps make things a little nicer in this time. Um, so I think we're going to have a very useful lesson planned for today. Uh, in the previous lessons, I have been talking about vocabulary a lot. So, a lot of my lessons were about grammar, and I was talking about all of these different grammar structures and how to use them. Well, the next thing I want to begin working on are the different types of words and vocabulary you can work with. So, we talked a lot about conjunctions, and now we're moving to another category of word. We're going to be talking about adverbs. And we're going to cover them in detail to help talk a lot about what they are and how they can help you. So we've got a specific usage in mind, and we'll get to that in just a moment. So let's begin. Adverbs. What are they? Well, they're one of the fundamental categories of words. I talk about this a lot. We have things like nouns and verbs and adjectives, and I know you have heard many times this word, adverb. You've heard it a lot, but what really are they? What do they do? Well, adverbs are the words used to describe verbs. So, we have nouns and we have verbs. And those are kind of your basic meaning for a sentence. You need a noun and a verb. I walk, he sleeps. That's a sentence. Well, maybe I want to give more information, so I can use something called an adjective to describe a noun, like the happy dog sleeps or the cute cat sleeps. And now I've got those words cute and happy to describe the noun, the dog, the cat. Well, on the other side, we can use verbs to or we can use adverbs to give more information about the verb, and sometimes even adjectives. So, an adverb is one of these words that can help add information in both ways. So, for example, my dog eats quickly. So, in this example, I have a very basic sentence. My dog eats. And as I said, if I want to give more information about the dog, I'll use an adjective. My cute dog eats quickly. But now I want to describe eats. I want to answer how fast. How does my dog eat? Well, then I use a word like quickly. And that is going to help describe, the manner and the process of the dog eating. Another example is how they can describe adjectives, actually. So I can say something like, it's extremely hot today. And in this case, we're not describing the verb. The verb is, nothing to describe. I'm actually talking about hot. And so how hot is it? Well, it's extremely hot. So in this case, I'm adding a little bit more degree or emphasis on the adjective. Additionally, adverbs have kind of special rules about where they go in the sentence. This is probably one of the trickiest things about adverbs, and it's going to be the hardest thing to really understand and to learn is where they go in sentences, because other words have very clear rules about how they, where they go in the sentence. An adjective always goes next to a noun. The blue car, the big house, the comfortable chair. All of those adjectives, big, blue, comfortable, it's very clear they must go next to the noun, the thing that they describe. Well, adjectives actually have more freedom. There are not as many rules about where they go in the sentence. There are just kind of some things that are generally true and some things that are normal, but of course there are exceptions. Um, so they can be in many different positions. One position, is usually after the verb. This is kind of the basic position for an adverb in the sentence. Um, when they come in the most neutral, kind of uh, fundamental way, they'll come after the verb that they modify. Um, However, if there's an object, so if the verb has an object, we cannot put an adverb between them. I'll show examples in just a moment. But just know that it's most normal for it to come after the verb, or if the verb has an object, it comes after both, because we don't want to split a verb from an object. That's not good. So the adverb waits and comes next. But really, adverbs can also come at the end or at the beginning of a sentence. And that's what we'll talk a lot about today, because the adverbs we'll talk about today have this kind of positioning at the beginning or the end of the sentence. So what does this look like? Well, for example, my dog eats quickly in the morning. This was my previous sentence. My dog eats quickly. I've added the prepositional phrase in the morning to show that the adverb is just going to come after the verb. So we have my subject, my verb, and then the modification, my adverb. But let's say we have an object. I read the book slowly because it was complex. So in this example, I read what? I read the book. And so the book here is the object. And therefore, it must not be separated. We cannot remove it from the verb, because English sentence structure is always subject, verb, object. So therefore, we put the adverb here. I read the book slowly. I'm still describing read. How did I read the book? Well, I read it slowly. And we can see here, even though this is a complex sentence, because it was complex, we have a dependent clause. It doesn't matter. The adverb still goes here. And even this can be first. So because it was complex, I read the book slowly, and the adverb stays in that position. So this is kind of the basic rule for adjectives. This is the most fundamental rule for adjectives, and this applies to most types of adjectives. But you can do something like this. Sadly, they didn't win the competition, or they didn't win the competition, sadly. Either way, you can put it at the end or the beginning. It doesn't really matter. But this is an option. And you can see here that this is special because it requires commas. I know, I'm sorry, the little box there. You can see the comma there after sadly, and this shows that this is somewhat of a more special position. Adverbs after the verb like this, we don't need a comma because this is the basic situation. But if you do put them at the beginning or the end of the sentence, you must have a comma, because now you're using something a little more special. And I'll talk about why we do this at the end of the lesson. So for now, just know this is kind of the basic thing you need to know about adverbs. So what kinds of adverbs do we have? Well, there are many types of adverbs. We've talked about a lot of them in my lesson series. You may not know, or you may not have noticed, but we did. So there are adverbs of manner, which describe how you do something, carefully, slowly. There are adverbs of time that say when you do something, soon or tomorrow. There are adverbs of location that, again, are answering where, here, there. There are adverbs of degree. These are the ones that describe adjectives, so very, extremely, really. These ones help give emphasis or to help, intensify an adjective. And then we have ones about attitude. So fortunately, apparently, these are the ones we're focusing on today. These are the more common and the more fundamental adjectives: manner, time, location, degree. And we've talked about those a lot throughout this intermediate lesson, or lessons, whether you realized it or not. The ones that are a little more complicated are these ones about attitude. So that's what we're going to focus on today, these adverbs. So the basic form for an adverb, you can probably see it already. The basic form is an adjective plus ly. That's how most English adverbs are made. So we have the adjective careful, ly, carefully. Adjective slow, ly, adverb slowly. Extremely, the adjective is extreme, or the adjective fortunate, fortunately. Apparent, apparently. So many adverbs are made this way. Of course, you can already see the exceptions here. Here, there, very soon, tomorrow. So there are lots of exceptions to this. Um, but the normal rule is ly in the adjective. And so words like, or adverbs of manner, adverbs of degree, adverbs of attitude, these will usually be your ly suffix words here. Time and location, those are a little more grammatical. Um, so, those have different forms, but at any rate. Another thing is important for spelling. If the adjective, so almost all adverbs are made from that adjective way. You're taking an adjective and you add ly. Well, we do change spelling. So if the adjective ends with a y, the spelling changes and becomes ily. I'm sure you've seen this rule before. I'm just showing it just because it's important to remember these little things. So something like happy, the adverb is happily, which becomes ily. Um, just a fun spelling rule. I know, love spelling. Everyone loves spelling. That I wanted to include. Um, so how do you know what's an adverb and how do you know what isn't an adverb? So, of course, if you see ly, that's a big clue. Hey, 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 I'm an adverb, ly. If you see ly, you know that's an adverb. However, maybe it doesn't have ly, like here or there or very, and you're not certain. Is it an adverb or is it not? Well, there's kind of two tests, or really, sorry, three tests you can do. You can answer how or when. So if the adverb is the question or the answer to those questions, you actually know then that it is the adverb. So I carefully, um, I don't know, I put my cup down carefully. How did I put down my cup? Carefully. Um, we'll arrive tomorrow. When will we arrive? Tomorrow. Um, so you can see that the adverbs are answering those questions. Um, you know, how did I feel? Well, I felt fortunately. So you can always kind of test that way um, to see what's an adverb and what's not. The other option that's a little more complex is movement. So if the adverb can actually move around the sentence to the beginning, to the end, to the middle, that's an adverb. But that one's a little more tricky because it requires a very good intuition about what is correct and what isn't correct. A more, you know, reliable, that's the word I want, a reliable test is this idea here. You can answer how or when with these adverbs. All right. So this is my kind of overview of adverbs. What they are, how we use them in the sentence, the position behind the verb, sometimes before at the end of the sentence, and then the different types and their form. So now let's talk about adverbs specifically. Let's give you some new vocabulary to use. And that's what we're going to talk about here are these adverbs of attitude. And adverbs of attitude help express how you feel about a sentence. So really, this is a very special category of adverb because they are going to describe your feeling about the sentence. Of course, they describe the verb. They're adverbs. They must connect to the verb. Um, but they really give a feeling about the sentence, and that's what we're focusing on. So let's look at some here. Comment adverbs, that's what they're called. Attitude or comment adverbs, you can call them either. So the first three I'm going to talk about are actually, apparently, and generally. These are used for facts. So these are used to talk about your feeling toward a fact. You know, you have an idea here, a fact here, and how do you feel? How confident are you about this fact? So actually is used to say this is the real fact. It's usually used for corrections. So, you might hear some incorrect information and you want to say what is correct. You want to give the correct idea or the correct statement. So you'll use actually to do this. Um, it, it's often used kind of as a way to signal, hey, hey, no, 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 not that, this. We also have apparently. So apparently is kind of one step down from actually. So if actually says, no, 100%, this is the real fact, apparently is, well, this is what I heard, but maybe it's not true. I think this is true. I heard it, but maybe. So that's apparently. And then we have the next one. So apparently is about what I hear. Uh, Generally is now about what is normally true. So this is kind of the usual thing that I experience. Um, it's not always true, but most of the time it is true. So let's look at some examples. The party will actually be on Thursday, not Friday. So this is how you would give actually to provide a correction to somebody. So, you're talking with your friend, and your friend says, oh, I'm so excited for your party. I can't wait to be there on Friday. And you say, oh, wait, the party will actually be on Thursday, not Friday. And then that's how you would show that this is the real fact, not that. Or, apparently, Sarah took his bicycle, but I'm not sure. So now you're saying, this is what I heard. So, maybe I was talking to somebody, they said, I saw Sarah take the bicycle. So now you can say apparently, and this is your way to show that this is what people say, this is what people talk about, but I don't know. I'm not certain about that. And apparently is usually used at the beginning of a sentence. Or you can use generally this way. The mailman generally delivers at 11 a.m. Um, this is used to show that, of course, not always, let's say 75, 80% of the time, the mailman delivers at 11 a.m. But of course, not always. So you can use generally to show that this is what normally happens, but sometimes it doesn't. All right, so these are the adverbs we can use to talk about facts. But there are, of course, more. So we have the next three: basically, obviously, and clearly. So these are used to talk about how we feel a fact should be interpreted. So now these ones, actually, apparently, generally, are used to talk about, you know, the actual confidence about my fact. How do I feel about it? These are the opposite. This is how I say you should feel about it. So we have, I'll do pronunciation again. Basically, obviously, clearly. So these are talking about the other person. I think you feel this way. So basically means this is the most important fact. So when I use basically in a sentence, I mean this this is the most important idea. This is the most important fact. Um, Obviously and clearly are synonyms. They're actually really the same idea, the exact same thing. And this one I use to say, this should be incredibly clear. This should be easy to see or understand, no difficulty. So for example, his idea is basically correct, even if we don't like it. So this is the idea where I say, okay, I don't like your idea, but it is correct. So I use basically to say, that's the most important thing. It is correct. Um, and you can use it at the beginning of a sentence very usually. So like something like, basically, it will rain all day, so we can't go to the park. And you would use basically there as a most important, it will rain all day. Or something like, you obviously need a new pair of shoes. I can see your toes. Um, so now this is saying, it is very easy to see you need new shoes because there's clear evidence. Obviously and clearly are always talking about evidence of some kind. And my evidence is I see your toes, so you need new shoes. Or something like clearly. Clearly, he has no idea what he is doing. So, this one is, it is very easy to see. He has no idea what he's doing. Um, so you can use these to show how a fact should be interpreted. All right. Some more. We have personally, certainly, and presumably. So these are used to talk about how you feel towards a fact. Um, so we had the first group was, about your confidence. The next was how someone else should feel. These are about how I feel. And so personally is basically saying this is my opinion. Whatever the fact is, whatever the idea is, this is my opinion. Certainly means this one must be true. This one's based on my knowledge. From my knowledge, I know this must be true. There's no other option. And then presumably, this one is from the evidence I have from the situation around me. I believe that this is the case. I believe that this is true. So they're going different ways. So for example, personally, I don't like country music. This is for me, 100% this is me. I don't like country music. I'm sorry. Many people do, but I don't. The themes don't connect with me. I don't really identify well with it. And so that's my opinion, personally. Or I could say something like, you should certainly be at the meeting. You're the team leader. Of course you should be there. And so this is saying, this must be true. You should be at the meeting. Or something like this. Well, he said he was going to the store and he left the house. So, presumably, he must be there. And this is to say, from my evidence, he said this, he left the house, so presumably he's at the store, but I don't know. So this is that idea of evidence, and I'm making an assumption from the evidence. All right, I'm going to do pronunciation for these. So personally, certainly, presumably. Um, my my accent shows for certainly. My American accent. You can use a more T sound here and say certainly, certainly. It's your choice. My pronunciation is certainly. I say it more down here. All right. So let's look at the next category. And then we have luckily, hopefully, and then the opposite, unluckily. So now these talk about your desires, what you like, what you don't like. So these are talking about how much, how you feel about a situation. Is it something you want? Is it something you don't want? So luckily, of course, you know the idea of luck, kind of chance. Uh, but when we use the adverb luckily, we're really talking about more how I feel. So it's really that just to say this is a good situation. I like it. On the other hand, hopefully is this is what I want to happen. So this one's more in the future. Luckily is now. The current situation is good. Hopefully is the future situation is good. Or this is the future situation I want. And then we have unluckily, which is the opposite. Just this is a bad situation. So for example, luckily, we left the park before the rain started. Just simple. It was very good that we left the park. Or the package will hopefully arrive tomorrow. So this is to show that I want this to happen tomorrow. I want the package to arrive. Or unluckily, he didn't get the new job. This is a bad situation. So really, luckily and unluckily have the idea that this is not my control, whereas hopefully is what I want to happen in the future. All right, the last adverbs we'll talk about um, are about feelings more generally. So there are many comment adverbs. I have tried to pick the ones that I think are very fundamental. So about facts and about opinions and about what you want and what you don't want. But then, of course, there are just lots of comment adverbs just about how you feel. So we have things like surprisingly, theoretically, truthfully. And these are all just talking about, to express your emotion about a sentence. How do you feel about an idea? So, something like surprisingly is just to say, wow, this situation is surprising. I did not expect this. Theoretically is then to say, my plan for in my plan for the future, this works, this is possible, but it's only a plan, it's only an idea. And then truthfully is to say, this is my real feeling. I want to emphasize that this is my actual idea, this is my actual feeling. So you can say something like, the package arrived surprisingly fast. And you're just saying, wow, this is faster than I thought. I did not expect. Or theoretically, we could fly from London to Sydney, but it wouldn't be fun. So this is just saying, it is possible, it works as a plan. Or truthfully, I hate mushrooms on pizza. That's me. I don't like mushrooms. So that's my real feeling. Truthfully, I hate mushrooms on pizza. So, common adverbs work all about facts, but then they also work about feelings, and there are lots and lots and lots to talk about different specific feelings. So if you want more words like this for your writing, just search on Google comment adverbs, and you'll find loads to talk about different feelings. So I'll do pronunciation one more time for these. Surprisingly, surprisingly, theoretically, theoretically, and truthfully, truthfully. Yeah. So, these are much more things you would want to use in writing to express your different feelings about things. So the final, I just have some additional notes. So what's important to know about all of these is that the position of the adverb doesn't really change the meaning of the sentence. It can be before, it can be next to the verb, it can be after the sentence. It doesn't really change the meaning, but it does change the feeling. It really does change the feeling of the sentence. And comment adverbs have kind of different rules for position. So you saw in the beginning of the lesson, I said adverbs come after the verb. Well, comment adverbs actually usually come before the verb or after an auxiliary verb. So let's look at this. Theoretically, we should arrive by 5 p.m. We could theoretically arrive by 5 p.m. So you can see the comment adverb actually comes before the verb. It doesn't come here. It doesn't say we could arrive theoretically by 5 p.m. We wouldn't say that. It actually comes before the verb. So if you do use it inside a sentence, remember that a comment adverb will come before the verb or after an auxiliary. So many of my examples were future, and I said something like the package will hopefully arrive. There, the comment adverb is coming after the auxiliary. So remember that for comment adverbs. They can come before the sentence, after the sentence, or after an auxiliary verb, but they're a little special. They'll come before the main verb. Or something like this. Clearly, he does not know what he is doing, or he does not know what he's doing. Clearly. Oh, this should be doing, typo. He does not know what he's doing, clearly. So what's the difference for all of these? Well, when the adverb is in the middle of the sentence, like we could theoretically arrive by 5 p.m., that's just your neutral idea. That's the most kind of, basic, normal way to say it. No special meaning. If it comes before the sentence, like this, clearly or theoretically, then it means that this is an important feeling. This is a strong feeling about this sentence. This is the most important idea. I mean, you said it first, so it's most important. If you put it at the end of the sentence, this is for real emphasis. This is really to make it special. He does not know what he's doing, clearly. So if you put it at the end of the sentence, it's really special and it's really strong emphasis. So really, when you're writing or speaking, you can use the different position of adverbs to express different meanings about the sentence. And do remember that comment adverbs are different. So if it comes after it, they always come after the auxiliary if they are inside the sentence, but before the main verb. All right. Well, that is everything I have to say about common adverbs. We've talked about what they are, how to use them, and how they can change the feeling of a sentence. So I hope the next time you do some writing in English, you can try to use these to make your writing have a little more emotion and to make things a little more clear. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming to watch today. I hope you have a good afternoon, and I hope to see you again. Bye bye.